What do Marilyn Monroe, Pam Grier, and Wonder Woman have in common? Aside from being icons, they each shattered expectations with one camera flash, posing for photos that were bold, controversial, and way ahead of their time. But these weren't just steamy snapshots. They were statements. Today, we're diving into the hidden stories behind the most provocative vintage photos, images once considered too hot for public eyes, but that now serve as powerful symbols of rebellion, beauty, and control. And trust me, what happened behind the scenes is even juicier than the pictures themselves. Marilyn Monroe, from risque to revered. Before she was a blonde bombshell, she was Norma Jean, young, hungry, and barely getting by. In 1949, long before stardom, Marilyn Monroe posed nude on a red velvet sheet for just $50. Years later, that same image became the cover of Playboy's very first issue. At the time, this could have ruined her budding career. But Marilyn? She didn't hide. When asked about it, she simply said, "Honestly, I was hungry." That one line, raw, real, unapologetic, made her even more beloved. Rather than destroy her image, it launched her into superstardom. Monroe knew the power of perception. She used her sex appeal like a weapon, but also fought behind the scenes for better roles, more control, and respect as a serious actress. She wasn't just posing, she was rewriting the rules. Lynda Carter, the Wonder Woman duality. In the 1970s, Lynda Carter was more than a superhero. She was the fantasy. As Wonder Woman, she brought strength, grace, and beauty to primetime TV. Off-screen, she appeared in sultry lingerie shoots, posing with the same confidence she brought to her crime-fighting endeavors. One photo in particular, Carter draped in satin, locking eyes with the camera, became iconic, plastered on locker doors and bedroom walls across the country. But not all of it was comfortable. She later admitted that some of those shoots left her feeling exposed, not in an empowering way, but in a used way. Still, she never apologized for being beautiful. "I didn't want to be only that," she said. Her story was one of balance, celebrating her femininity while constantly battling an industry that wanted to box her in. Suzanne Pleshette, seduction through sophistication. While others leaned into the bombshell image, Suzanne Pleshette took a quieter approach. She never posed nude, didn't need to. With her smoky voice, piercing eyes, and elegant demeanor, she owned every frame she stepped into. Her photos in the 60s and 70s flirted with sensuality. But they whispered. They didn't scream. Silk robes, arched brows, confident smirks. It was all about subtle power, and on-screen, she was just as commanding. Her role on The Bob Newhart Show made her a symbol of modern, intelligent femininity, a working woman who didn't have to dim her light for anyone. In an era that often reduced women to one-dimensional beauties, Pleshette was proof that allure could come with brains and bite. Pam Grier, the revolution in leather. Then came Pam Grier, and everything changed. In the gritty world of 70s blaxploitation films, Grier kicked down doors as Foxy Brown and Coffee, blending raw sex appeal with real bone-cracking power. Her photo shoots? Fierce. Leather, bikinis, halters, always with that look, unbothered, in charge. Daring anyone to look away. These weren't passive pin-ups. These were war cries in glamour form. She once said that being a black woman headlining films filled with violence and sensuality was an act of rebellion itself. She turned exploitation into empowerment and made sure her gaze in every photo told the same story. "I'm not here for you. I'm here because I choose to be." Later, she'd earn critical acclaim for Jackie Brown, a role written just for her by Quentin Tarantino. Her legacy? Still felt today. But not every risque moment was carefully crafted. Some were pure chaos behind the scenes. Take Jane Fonda's floating striptease in Barbarella. You'd never guess, but she was drunk during the original shoot. Nervous about appearing nude in Zero Gravity, she drank to calm her nerves, and the footage was unusable. She had to reshoot the entire scene with a hangover. Or Linda Ronstadt, who who dared to wear a sheer nightgown on her album cover, a move that got everyone talking. And who could forget Barbara Eden in I Dream of Jeannie? She had to keep her belly button covered at all times because the censors thought it was too suggestive. The irony? These restrictions only added fuel to the fire, turning ordinary moments into pop culture flashpoints. Carrie Fisher, Sharon Stone, and the Cost of Fame. Carrie Fisher hated the infamous Slave Leia outfit. She had to sit rigidly to avoid any skin creases, couldn't relax, couldn't breathe. But that costume became one of the most iconic and exploited looks in sci-fi history. Sharon Stone, meanwhile, played the game. Before Basic Instinct, she arranged a high-fashion Playboy shoot modeled after avant-garde art, not smut. The goal? Land a serious role, and it worked. These women knew the double standard. They had to navigate it with strategy, style, and sometimes sacrifice. The legacy of these images. What once lived in magazine racks is now preserved in museums and studied in film classes. These weren't just pictures, they were statements. Each woman, whether with a satin robe, a stare, or a punch to the gut, used her sexuality not as a weakness, but as a weapon. Monroe embraced hers to survive. Carter tried to redefine it. Plachette used it subtly. Grier owned it. Together, they challenged what society considered acceptable, beautiful, or powerful. And in doing so, they helped shape what came next. So now I'll ask you, which story surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more vintage Hollywood secrets, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss any new uploads from back in the days.